welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Don't forget, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm having a new interview, a new opinion piece, or some horror news for you to come and check out. This Wednesday is January 1st, 2025, and I'm going to be talking about the 10 best horror films of 2024. You do not want to miss it. Come see if your favorites made my list this time. So what are we talking about tonight here in movie reviews? Well, I'm still trying to squeeze in those last few new movies before the year is done. So I got to hit one of those with y'all tonight. One that a lot of you seem to really love out there. Excited to talk about it tonight, folks. We are talking Nosferatu. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right on into things. If you haven't seen the trailer for Nosferatu before, this is an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, taking a lot of the familiar characters and events that you know and replacing them in a German setting. It tells the story of Thomas Hutter and his wife Ellen, who made a pact to a dark being all these years ago for love and devotion. And as Thomas is sent away by his company to go and sign a real estate deal with the eccentric and brooding and weird Count Orlok in Transylvania, he'll find out that the Count has his eyes on more than a piece of real estate in Hutter's hometown of Wisburg, Germany. He wants the lovely Ellen for himself. Can Thomas and Ellen stop the Count's dark deeds while they're waiting for the first light of the sun? Or will Ellen be turned to a vampire? There it is, folks. That is Nosferatu. Now, it's important to mark this out right at the jump here that this is actually the third incarnation of this story. There have been two previous ones that I'm aware of, and if there's more, y'all can let me know in the comment section. But we have our original film that had Max Schreck in the role of Count Orlok, and then I believe the most recent one was 1979. That was the other one that came out from Werner Herzog, I believe now. And here's the thing about it, if you're not aware of this, Nosferatu is actually an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Again, not the movie, the original story. It took that story and basically replaced the characters with different names and some different events and different looks to try to escape the copyright law. Whole thing to where that didn't work, and then we got one of the best films of all time that really inspired a lot of the horror genre and a lot of what we know in vampires today. For example, the whole sun thing, that the sun will absolutely destroy vampires, and the majority of movies and TV shows that we've seen, Nosferatu. Bet you didn't know that. So, where do we go with this incarnation? I want to stay away from trying to comparing it that much to the previous works of it. While I could do that, I feel that I haven't watched either of the previous incarnations recently enough to really talk about it in this review and give you all the little insight that you need on that. So I'm going to stay away from that here. In regards to the story itself, honestly, there's going to be a lot of familiarity with Bram Stoker's Dracula. The fact that Hutter is basically playing the role of Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu Reeves in the Francis Ford Coppola adaptation. And again, he's there to sell Count Orlok house in his town of Wisburg, Germany. Now, we all know, and if you've seen Dracula before, you have an idea, obviously, that this is a terrible idea. Thomas is warned by his wife, Ellen, that he shouldn't go because she has a very bad feeling, and she has seen in her vision that this is going to end in madness and chaos and death for so many people. And then we get going from that. Now, with Nosferatu, I will say that coming out of it, I definitely had bigger feelings that this was more in line with something like a gothic horror piece like Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. Not a bad movie in the least bit, but I think a lot of us who have seen that and saw it in theaters know how badly the marketing screwed that film up and really wrecked its chances in theaters to be this great big success, because it was marketed as this gigantic horror epic and it ended up being this more intimate, ghostly love story. That is actually really good. It's actually really good looking back on it years later. I wasn't a big fan when I saw it in theaters, but I've had time to revisit it and reacquaint myself with it, and I enjoy it a lot more. And Nosferatu, interestingly enough, kind of plays the same way to me, to where, yeah, we're talking about a movie about a vampire, and this vampire is grotesque in a number of ways, and there's a person who's aware of what vampires are as well too, and people are getting killed. Yeah, all that's in there, but the movie itself really does play itself more as a gothic romance than it does as a straight up horror film. And that leads me to what I think is arguably, unfortunately, the worst part and my biggest problem with Nosferatu. I want to start by saying I think the cast of Nosferatu is phenomenal. Robert Eggers put together an amazing cast here for this film. Now, of course, this is all anchored down by Lily Rose Depp playing Ellen Hutter in this, who does an amazing job. And I'm very, very hopeful that from everything we see in her expressive face, the way she conveys emotion, whether it's sadness or joy, or even like just the way that she responds to somebody's touch in this, I very much hope this is the star-making role for her, because she's been in Hollywood for a little bit at this point now. But I think this might be the one that truly gets those eyes on her that she needs, because Lord, she puts in a performance of a lifetime here in Nosferatu. And she's very much our anchor. She's the driving force here of this film, but everybody else in it though. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, Willem Dafoe, who is fantastic as the Dr. Van Helsing type character, Professor Von Franz, Ralph Ineson, but Thomas Hout, his name is Thomas. Nicholas Hout, though, is definitely somebody who needs a little recognition in this one, only because I feel that years and years back, I had such a negative opinion of the guy, and he has slowly been like turning that around. Not that it's his job to do so in the least bit, but I'm a fan. I am absolutely a fan of Nicholas Hoult now. A lot of that is the movie selection that he's done, but he does such a great job here in the role of Thomas Hutter, to where you see this character change before your eyes as the movie continues to progress, as like this kind of meek, mild-mannered man at the beginning of the film, and towards the end of it, he is going to do anything and everything to save his bride from Count Orlok. Phenomenal. And that brings me to Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok himself. Now, Skarsgård does a great job in the role. I am not going to take that away from him at all. He is great as Orlok. That is not my problem with this. My issue with Orlok is the depiction of him. I know we can't have like necessarily the same things that we got in those two previous adaptations. And maybe me and a few others kind of thought that if this is the way that Orlok was going to be presented in the two previous adaptations of Nosferatu, that he'd be presented the same way. Because I think a lot of folks that look back at that original film and see the way that Max Schreck was made to portray Count Orlok and still find that so terrifying. The original Orlok is still one of the most scariest creatures and depictions of a vampire of all time. And here in this, there is a choice to basically make Orlok like a Russian mobster. Like, the entire time, I'm waiting for him to start talking about the Baba Yaga and shit like that. I don't know. I don't get the choice here behind it. Let me take that back. I understand that Eggers might be going for a more realism approach to it, because Transylvania is in Romania, and therefore it's easy to believe that Orlok would take inspiration from what a lot of the men in that region really did look like. And honestly speaking, when we see Hutter visit that inn before he makes his way to Orlok's castle, a lot of the gentlemen that we see around that area kind of resemble what Orlok should look like. So the realism is definitely there. I myself just didn't really jive with it, honestly, because I was expecting to be terrified from it. And maybe that's a bit on Skarsgård for setting up his work just being phenomenal in so many other films, doing all this great makeup work. I was hoping for something much, much different. Orlok's imposing, for sure. I'm not taking that away, and there are some scenes to where you see the monster in him, for sure. But it's just the depiction that we see of him mostly when he's talking and presenting himself to people. And we know that folks obviously are aware that something is amiss with this man. I just don't like the presentation of Orlok in it. It was very distracting for me, honestly, and it made it hard for me to really, really just sit back and get immersed in all of this. And that sucks, because it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. If y'all have not seen a lot of like the screen, a lot of the images being shared around this, there's one particularly where Hutter's on the way to Orlok's castle, and he's walking through the woods, and it's snowing, and it's black and white, and it's very much just like sullen and dark and gray and drab, and it represents like there being no hope at all. And then this carriage just shows up for him that's taking him to the castle, and it's dark, it's haunting, it's beautiful. This is a phenomenally looking film, y'all. Like the cinematography on this is absolutely great, to say the least. I just wish Orlok like met what I wanted out of the looks of this character. Now, that being said, it is also hard to not think about other stories we've gotten recently that have told parts of this just maybe a little bit better. I know a lot of you have been talking about The Last Voyage of the Demeter, a movie that I've reviewed here on the show previously that I absolutely love, that talked about Dracula's journey from Transylvania to Carfax Abbey. And we get that same journey here in Nosferatu as well too, albeit far less interesting, because obviously that's not the purpose of the movie itself. It's only a short part in regards to this whole entire narrative. But God, man, it's hard not to look at that and think there's so much more that could be being done here in this. And with that, that's the thing, is that we have to understand that Nosferatu really is that more of a realistic approach to the story of vampires compared to a lot of what else that we've been seeing. Doesn't make it bad in the least bit, but I think a number of people who are looking for maybe something a little bit more exciting might not get what they necessarily want out of this. Please know, y'all, I still give this movie a 4 out of 5. No matter what negatives that I'm giving here to it, I cannot deny that it is an incredible film. I just don't think that it worked for me that well. Still 4 out of 5 regardless. So I'm curious what y'all thought about it. Let me know in the comment section if I'm just off my rocker. Give me examples of why, because I am genuinely curious. This is probably going to be another one that I go and check out more than Egger's other work. I am not the biggest fan of his. I love The Lighthouse. I think The Lighthouse is great, but The Witch and The Northman, I didn't think really succeeded the way that folks made them out to. Honestly, this is probably going to be the one that I'll revisit out of his filmography so far. Let's hope y'all feel the same way. So let me know in the comment section here what you think of Nosferatu, and make sure to hit that subscribe button, folks. I got more great reviews coming for you. The best way to access everything is through my link tree, which you can get to through linktr.ee/T-Scary-Movie. If you go to my link tree, that's going to be access to the YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for short horror content, including movie news and movie premieres, to my Twitch page for my horror gaming, including The Thing Remastered and Phasmophobia for the PSVR 2, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, folks. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll be back with more reviews for y'all in the future. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.